Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
That's good.
Greetings, welcome to the Mobile IT Community of Interest. This is our monthly meeting for August. Thank you for joining us for today. Before we get started, I'd like to review how to use the GoToWebinar system in order to optimize your experiences today. You're all on default mute due to lots of participants on the call. You're encouraged to please forward any questions that come up during the presentation using the Questions tab. In these meetings of the Mobile IT community, questions will be read after the presentation, and we'll identify who is asking the question in order to foster some participation and interaction between the attendees. If you'd like to remain anonymous, just say so in the question. We also have some live poll questions today, which you can answer from your screen by clicking on the choices provided. If you want to minimize the control panel, just click the orange arrow. And thank you for attending the webinar. We shall now commence. I'm Stuart Leung. I represent Fiatech in Europe and the Middle East. On behalf of all of us at Fiatech, I'd like to thank you for joining us today for this August edition of the Mobile IT Community of Interest. Today's presenters are Philip Lorenzo from BIManywhere and Alice Leung from DPR Construction. They will talk about the use of BIM solutions to support field coordination and management in a medical center construction project in San Francisco, California. Before we get started, I'd like to take a minute to introduce Fiatech and this community of interest to those who are not members of Fiatech and those who are new participants in the community. Fiatech is a member-based organization with an objective of accelerating the deployment of technology in the capital projects industry. We've nearly 100 member organizations, partners, including academia and subject matter experts, and companies from across the world. We welcome new members to participate in our activities. Our goal is to lead global development and adoption of innovative practice. And just to be brief, nothing synthesizes the value of our organization better than the perspective given by the members. As Jim Newman of Arriva expressed, Fiatech is the forum in which diverse specialists can come together with owners, EPCs, suppliers to discuss pragmatic, workable solution. That is exactly the purpose of this community, and we encourage you to attend these monthly meetings as well as the subgroup meetings which initiated a month or two back. At the core of Fiatech's interests, we are creating the mobile IT community. Mobile technology has clearly enhanced project performance, but we believe to date it's only just scratched the surface. There are still many opportunities for this industry to increase productivity through improved project information flow. As we mentioned before, in Fiatech we strive to solve practical problems and the challenges associated to implementing mobile technologies, which are of a practical nature. We hope as a community to realize these potentials, and with your help we can make a real difference to this industry and increase productivity. As such, the objective of this community is to bring together project stakeholders' ideas to improve efficiency in the field using mobile IT and share the knowledge to implement those ideas in the industry. Participants in this community will get together in two ways. Firstly, through monthly meetings such as this one, where all participants can come together to learn about specific applications and technologies. And second, the participants can get together through the subgroup meetings. We've had 3 of these already. They focus on specific topics of interest in the community, and participants may carry out work inside their own organizations to advance the knowledge on implementation of mobile systems. The deliverables from the community would include reports, pilot tests, and use cases. These can give insight to the benefits, challenges, and costs involved in the use of the new technologies and applications. Furthermore, work inside the community can become Fiatech-wide projects through formal project proposals. This would increase the scale of a given project and involve all Fiatech membership. The community is a joint effort between Fiatech and Comet. Comet is a UK-based opportunity, UK-based organisation whose principal aim is to learn from experience to deliver measurable business benefits in terms of adoption of mobile technologies. As such, this is a partnership which supports the work and objectives of the community. So now we'll move on to the main presentation. As I mentioned before, we have Alice Leung and Philip Lorenzo as our speakers. Before I get into that, I just want to mention the other individuals involved. present today, we've got Fernando Mondragon, who's postdoc student working with me on the mobile IT community. And we've also got Todd Sutton from Zachary. Todd's very active in the mobile IT. If we've got any questions that come up that I believe that Todd could answer, I'll get Todd to participate. I'll move on to introducing Alice and Philip now. Alice started her career with DPR Construction as an intern at UCSF Medical Center at Mission Bay during the foundations phase. Upon graduating from Brown University with a Bachelor's of Science in Electrical Engineering, she returned to UCSF Medical Center at Mission Bay just in time to coordinate and build the nuclear medicine, operating and medical imaging equipment rooms that she had hoped to build as an intern. Alice is part of the visual building group within DPR and strives to share the value and excitement of BIM with others. Innovation and efficiency are key ideas in her mind, and she enjoys discovering how new tools and technologies can be applied to construction. Okay. I'll now hand over to Philip and Alice.
All right. Thank you, Stuart. So good morning, everyone. So like Stuart mentioned, the topic we'll be talking about today is building what matters, trust in BIM, and the field office relationship. So BIM is as good as the information that you put into it. So that's, you know, that's what we figured. Any information that you put into it sort of just adds to the model. So, and it's also as good as who you can share it with. So in other words, you can build a perfect 3D model, but if you can't get that information to the people in the field who are actually building it, then it's pretty useless. So in this industry, we've seen where, you know, you have a model for coordination during pre-construction, and that model doesn't really get upkept throughout construction, and at the end of construction you sort of just throw it away, and it's a huge waste of money and a huge waste of time. So this is why understanding the value of BIM and being able to use it in the field is important. So for today's presentation, we'll go over some of the challenges that we faced. We'll talk about the roadmap to success, and we'll give a case study of using BIManywhere on the 878,000 square foot ground up hospital complex. So this project is the University of San Francisco, California Medical Center at Mission Bay, which is opening next year, February 1st, 2015. Next slide, please. So challenges. This first one is one that the industry is still struggling with, and that's understanding the value of BIM. On a project of this size, it only makes sense to use BIM, right? 5 years ago, BIM was a fairly new idea in this industry, and it was hard to justify the value that it brings. At the beginning of the project, a lot of people resisted the idea of intelligent models. Maybe it was because they didn't know what it was or why we do it. So in our model, we actually had lacking field knowledge because they were created by people who maybe never even picked up a hammer. So this was at the beginning during pre-construction when we got all of our big MEP subs on board. There were, you know, some trades with detailers and modelers from the field, but there were others that, you know, didn't have that field knowledge incorporated into the model because it was a new thing, and people just thought, you know, we need to use BIM. We need to have this 3D model. So the whole idea of building off of a 3D model was not accepted well by the field laborers. So they were used to doing things a certain way, building off of 2D plans, and that's what they were trained to do. So, you know, hearing about this 3D model and sort of what we're going to do with it was sort of just this very weird idea. Next slide, please. So on this project, we have tens of thousands of sheets of drawings and many, many gigabytes of data. That's just because such a large project, and we try to keep everything digital. So carrying a set of paper drawings around in the field did not make any sense at all, and paper copies were quickly outdated. So if you give a field guy a paper copy of, a drawing or something like that, a couple days later or a week later, there could be newer information that affected that drawing. But if that paper copy got lost in the field or got put on someone's cart, anyone could have picked it up and thought that you could use that drawing because it's a contractual document, not knowing that there might have been something else that affected it later on. So taking all of that information out into the field and giving the most current information to the field guys was very, very tough. The 3D Navisworks model for half of one floor was greater than 200 megabytes. So there was no easy way of viewing it in the field a couple of years ago. And at the beginning of this project, iPads didn't even exist. Next slide.
Okay, our first question is, what are the biggest challenges you've encountered to adopt field technologies for BIM? Okay, release the questions, yeah. Okay. Could you all vote on those, please? Okay, just over 56% voted so far. Any more? Interesting. Yeah. Okay. We'll just share that. 36% field staff not integrated. Ah, okay. Interesting. Thank you very much for that. Move on to the next slide. Thank you, Alice.
Okay. So that picture that you see over there is what we call the Integrated Center for Design and Construction. So that was just one large trailer space. And during pre-construction, that's what our trailer space looked like. It was a highly collaborative environment where we had the MEP trades, the design team, DPR, and the owners sitting in that one space. And people were actually all spread out. So, I could be sitting next to an owner on one side and then the electrical detailer on the other side. So mixing everyone within that trailer space and having us all sit together sort of helped create that collaborative environment. And because of that, it was very easy to work together with all the subs and get things coordinated during pre-construction. And everyone took ownership of their work because we were just visually, you were able to see people working on it together, and sitting together helped build trust in the team and also in the model. So that's when we saw that the value of the model was growing, and we put together a very detailed BIM execution plan that laid out pretty much what everyone was, accountable for. And from there, we were able to bring what we did in pre-construction all through construction. And now what we're doing is we're handing over a 3D as-built model to our owners. And a big part of that was just building trust in the model, taking a leap of faith, and seeing results through construction. Next slide, please. Okay, next slide is a question. Question 2.
What is the purpose of utilizing BIM tools in conjunction with mobile technologies in your organizations? If you could vote on that, I'd be very much appreciated. Couple more seconds. Okay, thank you very much. We'll share that now. %53%, all of the above. Fantastic. Thank you for that. We'll hand back now to Alice.
Okay, so
thank you.
This slide, what I said earlier, BIM is as good as what you put into it. So what we realized was bringing field experience into the model provided great value for us at the beginning of the project and throughout construction. So this helped us anticipate unique field conditions and avoid future OSHPD change orders. So mainly us, we had the drywall framing modeled, and because of large shafts and all of the overhead MEP work that's in a hospital, we actually generated a lot of new details that got sent to OSHPD before or that all the details that got incorporated into our documents before sending it out for permit. So bringing field experience into the model also helped to bring down that field office barrier, and this also increased trust within the team and the model. Then with the field guys brought into the office, we were able to sort of see and understand more of how they work and what kind of things they're looking for. And having their experience, we were able to create new tools and workflows where these tools and workflows better suit the field, were created to better suit the field, and this in turn increased productivity. Next slide, please. Training and increase in productivity. So we have an on-site BIM expert to train all newcomers on how to navigate the 3D model. When iPads first came out, DPR tested the capabilities by bringing 2D floor plans into the field. So we had digital copies of all of our drawings with RFIs posted on them, field orders posted on them, all of the latest information posted on those drawings, and those were put on the iPad, so anyone who took an iPad out into the field would have the latest and greatest information because it was all digital. So now we use mobile devices for punch lists and BIM in the field. Next slide, please. So this brings us to using BIManywhere. This was a game changer for us. This is actually my game changer. So BIManywhere is that user-friendly app on the iPad that allows us to bring BIM into the field. The issues tracking portion of BIManywhere is cloud-based, which allows us to communicate between the field and the office with pretty much just a push of the button. All you have to do is sync the app. So we didn't have to walk back and forth between the field and the office to get information because we had everything on the iPad when we brought it out with us. So we no longer just fed information into the field. We actually incorporated that field knowledge and any sort of field conditions or field issues back into BIM because we're able to get BIM into the field. Next slide, please.
Okay, next slide is a question. Question 3. Considering only superintendents and foremen, how many tablets are used in your organizations? Please vote on that one. Thank you. Couple more seconds. Okay, we'll close up there. Thank you for that. 53%. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Okay, back to the presentation.
Okay, so this is our case study that I'll go over. At UCSF Mission Bay, we used BIManywhere during the construction of 17 MEP-dense imaging rooms. So even during construction, some of these rooms ended up getting redesigned, and there was some type of change or upgrade that happened in every single one of these rooms. So this was the construction of these rooms and their surrounding spaces. So with BIM, my superintendents only spent 10 to 15% of their time putting out field coordination fires, and with the rest of the time, they were able to spend it managing the schedule or sequencing work. So with a highly detailed and fully coordinated model, being able to take that outside into the field with BIManywhere, my superintendents checked for field install accuracy, and funny enough, the subcontractors knew that we had the 3D model in our hands, so they were actually more conscious about having an accurate install. Just knowing that we were, QCing their work, they sort of made sure that the work that they put in was accurate and where it was supposed to be. So the electrician foreman would actually bring up the 3D model, which was linked to their 2D drawings. And what he did was he showed his apprentices and his journeymen the exact conduit route in 3D to help them visualize it. And then they also looked at other trades work in that area so that they can avoid it. So if you have an empty overhead space, being a field guy and being able to see what else is in that space, that'll sort of help you, make sure that your routing should not be in that space, knowing that, in the future someone's going to install ductwork or something like that. And this sort of just increases overall efficiency because you won't have to go back to that same space, take down some of your work so that the next guy can, put his stuff that's above your work, and then you have to reinstall. So just sequencing of work within the field amongst the trades, this was very helpful, just getting the model out in the field. So with BIManywhere, the field foreman didn't have to go back into the office to bother their detailers to take measurements in the model. So what ends up happening is, because on this project we've been having the field install per the model. So we say that the 3D model is exactly where everyone should be. So sometimes if a trade installs it a couple inches off, that could actually be an issue because everything is coordinated, and with all of the tight overhead spaces, it's a field issue, and then you usually end up bringing in the detailers from both trades into the picture. So now you have 4 people looking at this issue, and then if it's a cost issue, you have your project managers brought into the equation, and it's just, getting, you now have a group of people looking at one issue, where if you have the model out in the field and the field guys are sort of self-sufficient in taking measurements and looking at what's in the field and where his or her stuff is supposed to be, that sort of just saves the time of all these other people. So during the construction, my superintendent didn't have to ask me to help them navigate the model anymore. So typically, you're looking at the model you're looking at the 3D model in Navisworks, and you're using a mouse, and it's a tough user interface if you don't know where you're going, or if you're just not familiar with using a computer. And the thing with BIManywhere is that there's a 2D, 3D integration, and it's easy enough for someone to just put their finger on the 2D plan, and then it'll bring you to that exact location in the 3D model. So this made all of the field staff more self-sufficient, and I'm not just a body that helps fly the model when they need someone to. Next slide, please. Okay, so the return on investment. So this slide pretty much explains itself. Using BIManywhere, someone can pick up the model and make measurements in less than 5 minutes. All I did was give them a quick demo. Because the user interface is similar to that of just using an iPhone or playing a video game on the iPad, it's pretty intuitive, and if I just show someone how to do it once, they're usually able to pick it up pretty quickly. So that left-hand photo, that's a photo of Ollie, my superintendent, and Bill, the electrical subcontractor general foreman. And they're looking at the model during an OAC meeting, trying to figure out what existing conduit routes we have and sort of what this upgraded equipment requires, and trying to figure out if we can use existing conduit routes or if we need to add in new conduits. So with BIManywhere, not only did the field have access to BIM, but my project manager in that right photo, my project manager is actually showing the electrical detailer something in the 3D model. So that's him on his iPad, and the electrical detailer is on the right side with CAD and Navisworks open. So pretty much everyone that my immediate work group was using BIManywhere and had access to the 3D model, so people were able to just pull it up and look at whatever they wanted to look at. Next slide.
Okay, the next slide is question 4. Okay, considering only superintendents and foremen, how many tablets are used in your organizations? Couple more seconds. Okay, we'll close that up now. Thank you. Yeah, interesting figures there. Thank you very much for that. We'll get back to the presentation now. Okay,
Hey everyone, this is Phil with BIManywhere.
Thank you, Phil. I'll just introduce you. Very quick who Philip is. Philip's the product manager for BIManywhere, a mobile construction tool based out of Oakland, California. After graduating with a Bachelor of Science from the University of California at Berkeley, he worked in the construction industry to implement the latest technologies in virtual design and construction. Philip works with the team to rapidly prototype and bring new technologies to market in order to reduce costs, mitigate schedule conflicts, and eliminate waste on construction sites. Over to you, Philip. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction, Stuart. So I'll be speaking on this next portion of the presentation, So with the completion of every BIM project, there's a natural progression of the client. So one question I had for everyone is, have you had BIM models handed over that your facilities team never uses? We've heard a lot of people complain about that, where they will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars or more on coordinating a model during the construction phase. But once those get handed over to the client, the files will just sit there in the office for the next 10 or more years being unused. If you think about facilities engineers during the operation of a project, they're very similar to the field foremen and superintendents that you see. There are a lot of urgent matters that are being addressed throughout a building, and there's really no time to attend a day-long Revit or design course just to take advantage of the model. Basically, if it takes over 5 minutes to learn, then a lot of people will just skip it and go to what they're already used to. Just looking at, just thumbing through pages and pages of documents. So being able to allow facilities teams to access this information provides a lot of benefits. Basically, the first little item we see here, being able to give facilities engineers access to the 3D information really just helps with being able to help plan and visualize access. So if you have maintainable equipment or would like to be able to access to see where the MEP lies, to be able to locate, say, shut-off valves, for example, and especially in very congested areas or areas that are visually blocked by ceiling tiles, being able to have that model in hand while you're out there where you need it, versus going back to the office and navigating a model on your desktop has a lot of benefits to it. This is so that you can minimize the amount of time that you spend in an area as well, especially if the areas are high priority or they're highly occupied, such as in a hospital facility. We're going through several tiles in the ceiling just to locate an electrical panel or, say, a fire smoke damper can have an impact on day-to-day operations. Also, having access to the information, such as basically the I in BIM information, is becoming very much easier with the mobile devices and using apps such as BIManywhere. So such as being able to tap on a piece of equipment and say that, okay, this equipment is associated with this particular system, and this system is supplied by a specific electrical panel system located in this area. Having that information available would provide a lot of value to day-to-day operations. Again, just so that engineers spend less time searching for information and spend more time actually solving problems. In the future, we also see a lot of possible integrations with existing facilities management systems, so that issues that are created in a mobile platform can be used to facilitate the creation of work orders. Can you go to the next slide, please? Here's an example of some services that BIManywhere provides. Not only services, but plugins that allow users to provide deliverables, such as integrations with electronic plan rooms on the mobile device, such as the iPad. So on the left side, you see a typical operations and installation manual for a piece of equipment. If owners have been handed over a large electronic plan room, and they can be hyperlinked with a table of contents, it is possible to integrate that with a 3D model using various techniques, make sure that someone can tap on objects and access the documents relevant to that object, such as a fire smoke damper or whatever other specialty. So an iPad is a great platform for that, just because it's light, it's rugged, it's got a long battery life. On the right side, we have an example of a QR code. So BIManywhere actually ships QR codes to projects, especially all across the United States. Users also have the option of generating these QR codes themselves using our plugins. And basically, these will be installed inside of the door frame hinge, and then will remain there for the next 10 to 20 years or more. The main point of these QR codes is to allow people to scan them so that they can jump to the right location in the 3D model in BIManywhere, so that they can get facilitated access to the information without having to spend time to physically get on the ladder and scan the barcode on the equipment itself. These QR codes are custom-made, metal-backed, rugged, weatherproof, and scratch and chemical resistant. So they're basically built for the long run. Next slide, please. So just in general, BIManywhere is a fully featured mobile platform with some web components as well that can not only be used during the construction process, but as a very capable tool for after construction is completed. With that said, we'll have Alice wrap up this presentation. Next slide, please.
So after building trust in BIM, we were able to bring BIM into the field with BIManywhere, and that empowered the field. So this is a tool that caters to the field's needs. And it's difficult for me to explain how easy it is to use the application, because I grew up with computers and I understand BIM and I use the software. But to help you understand how easy it is, I can give you two examples. So in addition to these quotes here in the presentation, I have worked with a foreman. His name is Walt. He's been with the industry for over 30 years, and I saw him in the field using the augmented reality view in BIManywhere to check field installation. So he's the field foreman for the drywall team, and he was outside checking framing installation and checking backing to make sure that all the backing for the wall-mounted equipment is all in. And because he, with that augmented reality view, he can stand in one place and, turn around from side to side and be able to, have the model shift with where he's viewing and be able to do a quick QC. So the other example is my amazing superintendent who I've worked with building those imaging rooms. His name is Joe Duca. He sequences work, reviews the 3D model for constructability, and he never enters the field without the model now. So we built 4 MRIs, 3 cath labs, a hybrid OR, radiology room, CT rooms, and the rest of the imaging rooms together. And I call him a BIM in the field master. So not once did I have to help him fly the model, and Joe had everything he needed using BIManywhere on his iPad. So these are just a couple of quotes from my other superintendent and some of the field foremen. You can just take a chance to take a look at that. And that concludes our presentation for today.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Philip. Most interesting. We'll now move into our next part of the presentation, which is the questions. Thank you, everybody, during the presentation for asking the questions. We'll just now start with the first question that came in from Kevin Rickley. What format was the as-built 3D model handed over? Does the client intend to use it for operations and maintenance?
Okay.
Alice, could you answer that one for me, please?
Yeah, definitely. So what we had was we have the architects using ArchiCAD, and they generate 2D CAD files for VPR and the subcontractors to use. So for all of the design changes, these were all made in 2D CAD by the architect. And for all of the MEP subs, we have them using CAD. So they're submitting 3D DWG files to the owners, and what we are actually doing is we're compiling all of those CAD files into Navisworks files, so NWF for the owners to use in the future. So they have access to all of the CAD files, 3D CAD files, and our put together 3D model in Navisworks. And they are planning on using it for operations and maintenance. It is an as-built model, so for remodeling, we're actually already doing some change work now. After, I guess right before the hospital opens, we have some users walking through and they actually want to change some things here and there. And we are using our model to look at what's inside the walls, what's overhead, is it feasible to add an outlet here, or if we should move it onto this wall. So we are using the model in that sense already. So this model will be maintained until hospital starts, and as work continues as the hospitals open, their idea is that this as-built model will continue to be maintained, and more information will just keep getting added into the model, and they'll be using it for looking at documents. We're linking objects, adding more information into the objects, and they're planning on keeping this model through the entire life cycle of the project.
Okay, thank you, Alice. The next question we've got, which came in from Ben Feltham from Skanska. I presume this refers to the which mobile devices that have end users in your organization found successful for completing work tasks. I think you said all of them, Ben, so it was more of a statement. Thank you, Ben, for that. We got a question that came in from Ian Bush. You'd used all three types, but we didn't have an answer for that. Sorry about that one. We looked at all the options that we thought were possible, but we're sorry we didn't include that one. The next question is also from Ian. For sequencing of work, did you use augmented reality or just looking at 3D models? Alice, is that a question you could answer for us?
Yeah, I could do that one. So I think for augmented reality, we mostly use that for quality checking. So just looking at field install accuracy and checking to make sure that everything is in, so for installation completeness. But for work sequencing, it was mostly just being able to fly through the model in the field with the subcontractors there. So we actually have daily huddles with all of the field foremen for specific areas, and we would take a look at that area and actually be able to sequence, to show the guys, this is where everyone's going, and we made a schedule we pretty much had an overhead MEP schedule for every single room because these rooms were so dense. We had multiple layers of MEP, and for each room it was pretty much different because this was on levels 1 and 2 of the hospital, and there's a lot of mains that run through these areas. So we used the model to sequence the work into the schedule, and then on a daily basis in the field, we would sort of just check in with all of the field guys and make sure that they understand, the layering of all of the MEP. And like I mentioned before, the foremen who had the model on their iPad would actually do their double check to make sure that they're not going to bury anyone, because they knew that, if they ended up burying someone, they would have to go back there, undo their work, and reinstall. Okay, thank you, Alice, for that question.
For the answer to the question, thank you. The next question we've got here, the slide that says less than 5 minutes to train end users to use BIM. What do you mean by BIM? Is this to use a specific tool for integrating the model? And that was from Maxwell Parfit of Reading University.
Okay, I can answer that one.
Okay.
So, sorry if that's that was a little confusing. So it was less than 5 minutes to train someone to make measurements and navigate the model with BIManywhere. So if you give them an iPad with BIManywhere on there and the 3D model loaded on there, they easily just pick up how to navigate and make measurements. And then furthermore, I do a separate training for, doing issues tracking and whatnot. But for, basic field needs, it's making measurements and being able to view the model, the 3D model on the iPad.
Okay, thank you, Alice. The next couple of questions are to do with the audio. Whilst we try to use the latest technology, sometimes we're in the hands of the broadband provider, and they do occasionally drop out. Apologies for that. I'm hoping that the actual recorded version doesn't exhibit any signs of missing voices and presentation. But again, apologies. The next question we've got here is again from Maxwell Parfit. Why use such a large QR code? Could you not use a URL shortener? Is that something you can answer, Alice, or is that something for Philip?
I think that's a Philip question.
Yeah, thank you. Philip?
Yes, this is Philip. That's a good point. So the QR code might have looked pretty large in the image. We do have QR codes that are 1 inch by 1 inch in size. They can get pretty small. The one in shown in the picture is that example is a bit larger than average, 1.5 inch by 1.5 inch. In terms of a URL shortener, that's not something that we've used at this point because we encode some information such as the X, Y, and Z location of the location. Basically, the QR code does not encode any kind of website or something like that. It actually encodes location information so that no matter how many times, say, a model gets updated during the construction phase, the QR code will remain the same. And so basically, we've essentially created a standard so that not only can we use it for the foreseeable future, but other softwares can use it as well. Basically the way that it's encoded is more universal.
Okay.
Thank
you. Thank you, Philip, on that one. The next question we've got here is Lillian Magalanes. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Where does the data live? BIManywhere server? Philip, could you answer that question?
Oh yeah, so in terms of the data, so if you're referring to operation manuals or warranty information or anything like that, that would reside on the owner's own systems or and also on the local iPad. That's basically what BIManywhere does is it'll integrate with that type of information. The other information, such as that could be related to the equipment, that could be related to spaces, that's actually attached to object elements themselves and viewable in the BIManywhere platform. So that will typically that comes directly from the 3D model. So it's located and editable typically in the source files. So I would say BIManywhere, if you can think about it as this, it's basically the end at the end of the line right before it gets to the user. So the source information is stored in the source files before it gets published to BIManywhere.
Thank you, Philip. Next question we've got here is from what applications can I add BIM models to BIManywhere? And that's from Jeffrey Hulett. Again, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Philip, could you answer that one for me, please?
Yes. Was that how or can you?
No, from what applications can I add BIM models to BIManywhere?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's the. Yeah, that BIManywhere is just to for my high level, BIManywhere is its main purpose is to allow you to add models to BIManywhere so that you can view it on the mobile platform. BIManywhere doesn't create the models, but it allows you to view what you've created in a facilitated manner. That's the main purpose. So yes.
Thank you. Okay, next question I've got. Can you measure 3D models with BIManywhere? Philip, I think that's one for you again. Again, that's Lillian Magdalene's.
Yes, absolutely. You can perform measurements in 3D, yes.
Thank you. Next question from Chris Moran. Is an internet connection required to view the model in the field? Philip?
The answer is no, you do not. You will sync the models and other relevant information when you're back at the trailer or when you have an interconnection, and then and everything will work completely offline. So no, you do not need an internet connection while using BIManywhere.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next question I've got here is, can someone please speak to safety in using tablets in the field? I realize this may seem elementary, but people still use their cell phone and drive. It's not safe to look at the 3D model and walking the field, i.e. unlevel surfaces, holes, etc. Did you have training programs which address this with your tablet users? Alice, could you answer that question? Yeah, please.
Yeah, so isn't there actually a Fiatech group that's working on safety?
There is, Alice. I'll just jump in and tell you about that.
Yeah.
In the UK, there is a number of there has been a number of issues where we've got a total ban on mobile devices. We've got a situation where we can go to quarantined areas to use mobile devices, and there's other situations where you can use them wherever you like. There aren't many of those. But we've got a working forum that's developing to look at what we can do, because we don't want to impede progress with mobile IT, so we need to develop some understanding. And as I say, there is a working forum that's in place and is looking at that. I do understand the situation is pretty similar, if not the same, in the US. And I've got Todd sat on my right who's agreeing with me. Yeah. Todd, do you want to say anything?
Basically, we have on a couple of our larger projects where we have instances where people using phones or tablets out in the field that could cause a safety incident. On those projects, we've actually instituted a mobile device training program specifically for the cell phone use, but that's also translated to tablets. So we actually give orientation, safety, part of the safety orientation for the use of mobile devices. The person gets a hard hat sticker that identifies that they've been through the training. So basically just identifying that they be aware of their surroundings and other equipment in the area, other people working in the area, as well as stopping and before you actually look at it. So basically, make sure nobody's, and then other people are aware of that too. So if we catch somebody using mobile devices on the job, they haven't been through the orientation, we bring them back to the office, get them orientated. If they're repeat offenders, we ask them to leave the site. So.
Okay, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Alice. I hope that's answered the question. If there's anybody would like to contribute to that working forum, wherever they are in the world, then please contact me directly, and we can discuss. The next question I've got here is again from Maxwell Parfit. Did you consider presenting the final as-built data in any openly shareable formats such as IFCs? Alice? Okay.
No, actually. So we worked closely with the facilities management team, and they didn't really see the need of getting all of that information in IFC files. They were pretty much set on using Navisworks and getting the CAD files, and I think that's just knowing that most of the subcontractors in our area use CAD for any type of, updating of the model. So in the future, if they were to do any remodeling work, they will be able to get a subcontractor that can manipulate CAD. And even from CAD, you can export to an IFC file. So I don't know if there's, it is something that we can do, but I don't think that we saw the need in doing that on this project.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Next question we've got here is from Leo Shand. What if you don't use Navisworks for model coordination? I use Bentley Navigator. Does the software only work with Navisworks files? Philip, is that a question for you?
Sure, yeah. At this moment, because we've mostly, up to this point, focused on Autodesk users. Currently, we have plugins that work directly in Navisworks and AutoCAD, but we don't have anything that works in Bentley yet. We've had others that had Bentley models. They essentially had to import it into Navisworks. So the answer is no, we don't support that at this time.
Okay, thank you very much, Philip. Next question we've got is from Ian Bush. Your as-constructed model sounds to be a marked-up design model. Why not build an as-constructed model, and are you not using laser scanning? Alice, is that a question for you?
Can you repeat the first part of that question?
Yeah, okay, beg pardon. Your as-constructed model sounds to be a marked-up design model. Why not build an as-constructed model, and are you not using laser scanning?
Okay, so what I'm trying to understand from that question is, he's saying that we are, I guess, marking up an design model. So we actually have our subcontractors, they actually ended up building their own model during pre-construction. So they received a sort of a general spatial coordinated model from the design team. And then in order to get it to a state where we can do prefabrication, the subcontractors pretty much modeled everything again and to more accuracy and so that it's constructible. So we actually ended up taking that model that the subcontractors built and kept it updated all throughout construction. So that's why we have this, I guess you're turning that, model into an as-constructed model, which is the as-built model. We did not do laser scanning on this project because of the size. It would have costed a lot more money to laser scan every single room. So in conjunction with having an as-built model, the owners actually had a sort of a third-party company come in and take progress photos throughout the entire construction, and all of these photos are in a database, and there's a web portal so that if you wanted to go back and look at something behind the walls, you could do that. So having both of these tools, we were able to avoid paying a lot of money for laser scanning. And on a construction site this large, it would have taken a lot of time to laser scan every single room, and to have, I guess, laser scan progression, it just didn't make any sense for a project of this size.
Okay, thank you very much, Alice. The next question, apologies for my mispronunciation, but the next question is from Anne Sweet. What is the cost to the owner to do the closeout integration? Alice, I think that's a question for you, if you'd like to have a go at that one.
So closeout integration, sounds like she's talking about the submittals and operations and maintenance type deal with like linking the stuff. I actually don't know what that cost is. I can't respond to that, but I know that BIManywhere has a service that will do all of that for a fee, and I think Phil might be able to speak on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's a fee depending on the size, scope, and level of detail, but what we found in general is that basically it's worth the the investment typically for facility staff, and it's also relatively inexpensive. Just can't exactly give exact numbers out without looking at specific projects or understanding the needs, but it's most people say that it's well worth the cost, and the cost is actually not significant at all.
Okay, thank you, Philip. I'll just say at this point we've still got a few more questions here. We are just on 10 o'clock, which is Central Time. We're going to overrun a little bit. Please bear with me. Some of these questions look pretty good. I'd like to continue if I can, and please stay with us. The next question I've got here is from Corey Johnson. How are you retaining the BIM intelligence of the model in the DWG? Is the information in the DWG or in a separate file like Access? Alice, is that a question for you?
Yeah. So I don't know if you're talking about like just a vanilla CAD file, but the subcontractors that we have on board, they have libraries that they've built, so all of their objects actually have all the attributes in there already, and you're able to add additional information to the objects within CAD. So it's CAD MEP or CAD Duct or whatever program that they have already have, the programs that they're using already have all this information, and that's all the information that they actually send to their fab shop to do prefabrication of their work. So I don't know if that answers the question. I think, you know, the DWG files that we have already contains all of the intelligence, and, you know, just sending that over to the owners, they still have access to all of that intelligence.
Okay, thank you. Next question I've got here is the QR code tie into the asset management? And that's again from Lillian Magalanes. Philip?
Yeah, so the QR code that you see, well, that was shown earlier, that's actually tied to a location in the building. And what you do from there is you'll be able to locate and pull up information relevant to equipment that's in close proximity to you. The interface is slightly different than what most people are used to in terms of in BIManywhere. It's what you see is what you get kind of interface. So it isn't directly tied to an asset management system at this point. It's more focused on facilitating getting close to that information.
Okay, thank you, Philip. The next question I've got here is during the presentation I observed iPads were the thing to use for bringing BIM on the field. Can the same be done using Android? And that's from Mohammed Asimuddin. Again, I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Alice, could you answer that question, please?
Yeah, so I think it's the user interface of the iPads that make it very easy for the field guys to pick it up. So we've actually tried the Windows Surface Pro. We've tried an Android tablet, and it's just not the same user interface. And also the apps that come out generally go for the iPad first, or they're all, you know, iOS based first. So in order to, I guess, keep up with all the latest apps and finding the best one, we decided that going with the iPad is actually the best choice.
Okay, thank you. This next one is on connectivity again from Erwin Chong. How do you deal with the Wi-Fi and 3G, 4G connectivity in the construction area? I think we partly answered that one earlier, but Alice, over to you.
Yeah, so I guess now that, you know, all of the walls are up, we do have internet out inside the building, but when we were, you know, I guess right in the middle of construction, there was no connectivity in the middle of the building with all of the drywall up and, you know, no additional cell towers or anything like that. So because BIManywhere is able to work offline, we would just do all of the syncing in the office before we went out in the field, or there were some locations in the field where we were able to get 4G, and we actually did sync out in the field through cellular data on our iPads.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Next question's from Jeffrey Hulett. Again, what apps, e.g. Revit or ArchiCAD, Vectorworks, MicroStation, can be used to create models for BIManywhere? Philip, I think that's a question for you, please.
Yeah, so at this point, basically anything that can be imported into Navisworks can be pushed out to BIManywhere, as long as you can see those objects on your computer and it's viewable in Navisworks, it'll be pushed out. So, and I believe Navisworks can take in virtually every single format that's out there. If it doesn't, then there's probably some type of plugins or there's some kind of object enabler so you can download for Navisworks.
Okay,
so,
great.
So, yeah, I haven't heard of any models that couldn't be imported into Navis.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Couple more questions here. This is from Chris Moran. Models can be huge. Can you load an entire hospital model into BIManywhere, or do you need to create separate views? Philip?
That one's for me.
Oh, Alice, carry on.
Yeah, so when we first started looking for an app to use on the iPad, it was definitely very difficult for us because half of the floor was about 200 megabytes. So with BIManywhere, I'm actually able to load an entire floor of the hospital into BIManywhere, and that's like 300 megabytes. I've actually loaded other models that are up to 400 megabytes into BIManywhere, and because of how the software was built, it's actually a very, very smart and sophisticated algorithm that they use to break up the model into smaller pieces on their server, so that while you're opening it on the app, it doesn't load up the entire floor, so it is able to handle very large models. So we wouldn't even, I don't see any need for loading the entire hospital. So this is a six floor hospital, and you're only going to be walking, from floor to floor, so it doesn't really make sense to me to load up the entire model. But there is a new feature in BIManywhere where you can actually upload or load the entire building, and within their own servers they can actually split it up into different floors and create individual floor files for you.
Okay, thank you. The next question we've got is from Hector Monroy. Do engineers or BIM designers need to do something different in their BIM model to optimize the utilization of BIManywhere? Philip, is that a question for you?
Yes. In terms of any kind of special optimizations, no. There's BIManywhere caters to existing workflows and modeling methodologies. So no additional things have to be changed. But in terms of being able to get the information into BIManywhere, the modelers and designers are encouraged to input that information prior to publishing those models, just so that you have that added information. So again,
so I can speak a little bit to the setup portion of it. So what I generally do is I have NWF, coordination NWF, and that NWF will, continue to take in all of the latest and greatest drawings from all the subcontractors. So I usually take out all of the viewpoints that I don't really care about, and then directly from the coordination file, I will hide access zones or hide, halos, hide things that me as a person out in the field I don't want to see. So I'll hide, architectural walls and whatnot, and pretty much just like cater to whatever that the field wants. So it's really not much extra that I have to do. It's just hiding a couple of things and deleting some viewpoints. Unless if you do want, we actually use BIManywhere to review clashes as well. So we save viewpoints, and then you can open those viewpoints from, so when you export into BIManywhere, the viewpoints go with that model. So you can actually open the viewpoints in the field and it'll even show you, your exact location on the 2D plan as well. So, just clicking on a viewpoint, you can see exactly where you need to go to in 2D, and then view the 3D model directly off of there to see sort of what the issue is. So pretty much just cleaning up the viewpoints and maybe hiding a couple of objects before you export, and it's just a simple plugin with Navisworks. So me personally, I don't think there's that much additional work that needs to be done other than just installing the plugin and following the directions there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Alice.
That depends on
Philip, carry on. Philip, did you want to pitch in there?
Well, yeah, so I guess the answer depends on the perspective. So from the perspective of the designer, the modeler, the changes are minimal. But from the perspective of the BIM engineer, the BIM coordinator, like Alice was saying, you'd hide some stuff that's not necessary. So that's to sum up both of our answers.
Okay, thank you, Philip. I did say there was only a couple of questions. We've got a couple more come in. We'll just finish up, if everybody's still okay with that. The next one I got here is from Stephen Convens. Hello, Stephen. Does BIManywhere generate automatic punch lists and sign-off sheets from the Navisworks model? Alice, is that a question for you?
I could speak to that. So it doesn't actually generate anything from Navisworks, but BIManywhere has a portal. So it's a website portal that you can log in and pretty much view all of the issues. So you create the issues on the iPad within the model. So the issues are location-based. So you'll see all of the issues on the 2D plan, and then when you click on that issue, it'll bring you to that location in a 3D model. And when you create the issue, you can also assign it to people, and emails will get sent out to that person. And whoever that issue is assigned to, they'll get, a screenshot, they'll get a location in 2D, and then you also get a QR code. So you can scan that QR code, and you'll get brought to that location in the 3D model when you scan that QR code with BIManywhere. So the idea is, not everyone's going to be using an iPad. So if you're in the field and you create an issue, you can sync your iPad, send that issue into the office, and your detailer or your project engineer or whoever that's going to be helping you out will get an email and log on to the portal. And in the portal, you can view all the specifics, the priorities, and all of the information for that issue. And in that portal, you can actually send for a spreadsheet of all of the issues that were created.
Okay, thank you, Alice. Question here from Ian Bush. This is about ruggedizing the iPads. What did you do to ruggedize them, if you did anything?
Does that mean like protecting them in the field? Like
yeah, protecting, yeah. Yeah.
So we use, I could probably send it out. I don't have it with me right now, but we pretty much just got cases. I know some superintendents got like a similar to an OtterBox case.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it?
I think one from Griffin, I think.
Yeah.
It's called the Survivor. So I actually use that one, and I've dropped it a couple of times and nothing's happened. Knock on wood that it'll break.
Yeah, that's largely what I see out and about is things such as that particular product, and they do work. I've seen an awful lot of. I don't know whether you're on minis or whether you're on the full-size iPads, but I see quite a preference for minis now because they fit in pockets, and we developed a waistcoat that you can actually slide the mini into, and you don't conflict, you don't lean on it, you don't break it. And certainly been a lot less damage since that was brought into service. Yeah. So anyway, the next question I've got here is from Kevin Rickley. It's more of a statement, really, I suppose. It's BIManywhere requires you to break models up into floors related to 2D drawings. Alice, question for you.
I guess that's similar to the other question we had with the loading up the entire building.
Yeah.
So You can break it up into floors or you can load the entire model, but it just makes more sense to break it up into floors because there is that 2D, 3D link.
Yeah.
So what we've actually done with one of our subcontractors is they're actually loading up their shop drawings on there. So you have, you know, the ductwork shop drawing, and then they're jumping from their shop drawings to the 3D model.
Yeah.
So I guess it just, from a workflow standpoint, you're not going to be, you know, jumping around floors physically out in the field. So breaking it up into different floors makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I've got another one from Kevin, and it just simply says he believes. Thanks very much for that, Kevin. That made us all chuckle here. One more question, Mohammed Asimuddin. If I'm not wrong, I understand that BIManywhere and the models are being used by the facilities team after project completion. How efficient is that, and what is the effort involved? Is the effort very significant? Alice?
Yeah, so we have one facilities guy during construction actually reviewing the model out in the field to check for access to make sure that, you know, whatever that hasn't been installed yet will not impede on his access to, you know, valves or motors or anything that he needs to access. So we were lucky enough that UCSF, you know, really trusted in BIM and was able to get their facilities management team, some of their facilities guys on board during construction to help review access and things like that. So he is using the model in that sense. In terms of getting this ready for them on the iPad, it's just a matter of, you know, getting them licenses and then doing that export from Navisworks. So there isn't much setup needed at all, but we'll probably just ask a couple of questions like, hey, exactly what you want to see, and it's probably going to be similar to what we've already set up for construction, because for construction we pretty much just put, you know, what's going to actually be installed, so no access zones or anything like that. So I think we'll end up just talking to them briefly about what they want to see, and then it'll be the exact same setup process. We'll just export to BIManywhere and they'll be able to access the model.
Okay, thank you. All right, with no more questions there, I'll just move on now. I'll say thank you very much for answering those questions, everybody involved, Alice, Philip, and Todd. I'll move into the announcements now. The first announcement I've got is the Fiatech members meeting, which takes place September 29 to October 1st. It's in Philadelphia in September. This will feature a workshop on mobile IT, which follows on the challenges identified and solutions discussed in the implementation subgroup. If you're interested in coming along to that, you can have a look at the Fiatech website. The other thing that I will mention is in Europe, in October, we've got a two-day conference. This year, Fiatech's teamed up with Comet Partners, and a lot of events and projects. And it's entitled the Efficiency Through Digital Projects Conference. It's at the Crystal Building on the outskirts of the city. Again, have a look at the website. We will have a session within the presentations on mobile IT and the community. So please take a look at that. If you've any suggestions for inclusion, then I'm welcome to hear about that. I'll also just talk about the implementation subgroup, which took place last week. We do have the subgroups on a monthly basis. The next one is on Friday, September 12th, and people are very, very welcome to come along and participate in that. One more thing to tell you about is the next monthly community is on the 20th of August. No, it's not. It's on the third Wednesday of each month, and it's in September. It's on September the 17th. So again, please pitch up. If there's any suggestions for inclusion, then I'd welcome that for future topics. One more thing is social media is playing a big part in what we're doing. We're being talked about through Twitter and one or two other mediums. We've got the webinars from the past events are all stored and available for access through YouTube. So thank you very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.